Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your guy, Derek Stroman. I'm back. We are doing a new special edition style Speak Your Mind show this evening. I'm introducing, along with a colleague of mine, Travis Shortt, what we like to call Paramedia activity. So what we're doing on this show is we're going to talk about a lot of the the strange and unusual, unnatural phenomenons that take place on a daily basis. Some people like to talk about it, some people don't. But on this show, we will talk about it because it's the Speak Your Mind show. Again, just reinvented for an audience that is interested in talking and discussing these things. And if you know me, what you do, if you're viewing this, you know me, I like to bring people together. I like to build a platform. I do this on a daily basis. My colleague on the show does this on a daily basis. We build platforms for people to discuss things that some people are just flat out afraid to talk about. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about it. Matter of fact, this gentleman who goes by the name of Travis Scott, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Travis right now. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. Good to be on the show.
Yes, man. This is exciting. I'm excited about it. You and I talked about it for a little while, and here we are. We're bringing it to fruition. And this is, excuse me, let me tell this individual I'll call him right back.
Space Force has invaded.
Yeah, I know. Look, that's happened on the Warrior Mode show before, right? So
okay, Bill Bean has the black helicopters. You have the laser fire. So Kev and I are going to have to come up with our own sound effects.
It never fails. It never fails. As soon as we're live doing something, that's when somebody decides to call or notifications start going off.
Exactly.
So, but hey, what we wouldn't be popular gentlemen if that didn't happen. So
very true.
But again, back to what we're doing here, and nobody knows better than you do, Travis, about experiences that people may or may not believe once you've felt the need to come forth with this kind of information. So, I mean, what is it like? I mean, you talk boogeymen and ghosts and UFOs and extraterrestrial. Do you think people turn their backs, or do you think they embrace that kind of talk?
I think they're embracing it more now than they have in the past. I've always had an interest in the supernatural and the paranormal going back to when I was a kid. I mean, I love watching horror films. I love sci-fi films. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one of my favorites.
Sure.
I grew up watching Kolchak the Night Stalker on TV with my dad late night on Friday night. And what I loved about Kolchak is, he was a news reporter who was always handed these very boring and mundane projects, and they always ended up having a supernatural horror element. And, in the course of the show, of course, he was able to kill the monster of the week and things like that. And then, of course, the X-Files rolled around in early 90s, and I'm very proud to say that I was not one of the Johnny-come-lately X-File fans. I was there when the show premiered and watched every episode from season 1 all the way through the new iteration that they came back with the limited series run.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yep.
Now they brought it back. You mean?
When they brought it back. Yeah, when they brought it back. I'm a huge fan of the show. Huge fan of the writing and the mythology that they created. What I did notice, and of course, we've talked a little bit on Warrior Mode about this. I came from a very strict religious upbringing, private Christian school education, church, 3 times a week, Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. The school was attached in the church. So I grew up in that environment. I was for several years. I served as an ordained pastor in the Southern Baptist denomination. You don't find a lot of talk in churches. You didn't find a lot of talk in churches about the supernatural and the paranormal, except when it came to the miracles of the Bible and the angelic side of things. You didn't talk a lot about demons. You didn't talk a lot about the devil. You didn't talk a lot about the supernatural. UFOs were taboo for years inside the religious environment, the religious culture. That's changed a lot. Actually, it's changed a whole lot in the past 30 years. And I think more people are open to discussing it. Doesn't necessarily mean they believe it, but they are open to having the dialogue. They're open to having the discussion. I think more people, and Bill Bean would say that the reason this is happening is because we're getting very close to the end times. I think more people are having supernatural and paranormal encounters and experiences of all shapes and sizes, UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, Moth Man sightings. I saw our good buddy Lon Strickler posted today a 7 to 9 foot tall winged red-eyed humanoid at the O'Hare Airport, spotted and by several eyewitnesses. He posted that story earlier today. And I think more people are open to just what is happening around them. I think you get a lot more conversations going today about, like I said, UFO sightings, near-death experiences, hauntings, poltergeist activity, haunted houses, supernatural activity, those things. And it's refreshing to actually be able to sit down and have those conversations now without feeling like people are judging you for being a kook, crazy, out of your mind, and off the reservations and off the charts. And that's one of the things I love, especially about Bill's circle, that we bring on Warrior Mode and we talk to these individuals. They've all had some exposure to the supernatural and the unexplained, but they're very down to earth, normal, sane people. And I want them to know that I think they're sane. I don't think they're crazy. I think that they're very sane. They're very logical individuals. But it's nice hearing those types of stories. I come from the world of broadcast. I've been in broadcasting, be 29 years this September, radio, television, ad agency, marketing, all of that. And, the media is notorious for, if there is a UFO sighting or a Bigfoot sighting or something like that, they grab the least credible individual and put them on mic or put them on camera. All the time. Let's find the one person who looks like they're strung out of their mind on every drug and can't, put an entire sentence together and let them talk about it. And that has actually, I think, done a great deal of damage to the credibility of these events and of these sightings. And I think one of the things that has changed is that media coverage has changed. We're not finding the crazy mountain man who says he saw Bigfoot. We're talking to, as we've done on Warrior Mode, former military, former special ops that have had Bigfoot encounters. So I think when you start changing the dynamic of who you're interviewing and who's telling the narrative, that changes the credibility of the narrative.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement more. And those statements all wrapped in a nutshell, because it takes people of stature to really make us believe. It's almost like if Dr. Fauci says something, then we're all like, oh, well, Fauci said it, so there's got to be some truth to it. Versus, like you said, just whoever comes off the street, long hair, raggedy looking, and you're that's the guy that you want to use as a creditable eyewitness to an alleged account or of something happening. So I completely agree with that. But I guess being as I got you now one-on-one, what's it like after having these experiences to get back to a natural way of life? Now you kind of started talking about it a little bit. You said, well, I don't think they're crazy, but how about yourself? How many times have you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, Travis, are you going crazy? Am I going crazy?
I do that every morning just to remind myself that I'm not.
Right.
Well, right. I think what you're touching on is something that I haven't really talked about openly except here recently, sure. and that was my experiences while working on the Moth Man documentary that we started in 2003 through 2009. and I was in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And, you know, I've, up until that point in my life, never really had what I would call a supernatural encounter or an unexplained event or anything like that, with the exception of it. I remember being a very small kid in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was in the back seat of the car. My parents were driving. We were coming across a mountain. I think it was from Coburn, Virginia, back into Clintwood, Virginia, where I'm from. And I remember looking out of the back window. I was laying down. I remember looking out the window, and I remember seeing something in the sky. It was a weird geometric shape, kind of. It was kind of like a star, but it was like almost like folding in on itself, things like that. It was glowing. It was very, very bright, and it was just, you know, steadily going across the sky. And I remember that was instilled in me as a young child, and I became very interested in the UFO phenomenon, the Bermuda Triangle. All of those things fascinated me. When I went to Point Pleasant, you know, I had no Mothman encounter. I didn't see anything. What did happen was there was another location called Lake and State Mental Hospital, and it was an abandoned asylum. And we saw it one day. We'd seen it several days. It was this big, imposing brick structure sitting out in the middle of this field, and it was 3 stories above ground, and then there was a basement level, but just a huge, massive cube of brick and broken out windows, and it was covered in ivy and kudzu, and it was just very, very striking appearance, because you're driving along, you know, this country road in West Virginia, and all of a sudden you've got on your right hand side, you've got the new maximum security female prison, and then you've got this literally just almost across the road. And so we had seen it multiple times while we were investigating and shooting footage at the TNT area. One day we decided to go there and walk around and look around, and we did, and we went back several times. And what I found about this place, by the way, it no longer stands. When I was there in 2009, it had been totally razed. There was no footprint that this building had ever been there. I was back last year. I took my daughter and some of her friends on a day trip to Point Pleasant to kind of let her retrace Dad's footsteps while he worked on this documentary film. Mm-hmm. But the field is empty, and it's really bizarre because, you know, most people realize, you know, if you tear a building down, there's always some residual. There's something, you know, whether it's just, you know, power, and there were no power lines on this piece of property to begin with, but there's always something to remind you that a building was there. This was just totally pristine. There was no landscape or footprint whatsoever that would have shown that anything had been here. But we went there several times, and it was the most active haunted location that I'd ever been to. This thing had doors would open and close by themselves. There were cold spots. You would hear footsteps. You could hear laughter. You would hear screams. You could see shadow people. I mean, it was just everything that you could go in there with a phone fully charged, and 5-10 minutes in, your phone would be dead. Just crazy. Would drain. We went in.
And you visited this. Excuse me. You visited
Yep.
this place how many times? I mean, this is something that reoccurred.
Yeah, over this time span of the 6 years that we were working on the film, we went back. We were probably there 10, 12 times, and we would meet paranormal investigative teams from Ohio, from West Virginia. They would meet us. We discovered that the property was listed as one of the most haunted historical properties in the state of West Virginia, and it had been home to an asylum. It had been an orphanage. We discovered there had been unsanctioned ice pick lobotomies being performed on the children. A lot of the children died. They were buried in unmarked mass graves on the piece of property. Mm-hmm. And so we were going there, and we were going unprepared for I think what attached itself, because all the 3 main individuals, myself, Charlie McCracken, who passed away 2 years ago, and Matthew Fleming, my cousin, we were the 3 that were putting the film together. Now, we took other people with us. I took my sisters. I took a couple of friends on when we would do these trips up. They would go with us. We would always take them. It was a cool thing, you know. Watch the doors, listen to the screen, you know. But it came with the price.
Yeah.
Years later, something. Early on, Charlie McCracken ended up in the hospital for almost a month with the symptom of malaria, but the doctors could not find any actual diagnosis. His organs were shutting down. He was near death. There were car accidents. My marriage ended. I left.
Mm.
I left the ministry. There was just a lot of negative that happened. Matthew, my cousin, had life-threatening illness just 3-4 years ago, and so we've all had these very negative experiences, some more so than others.
Mhm.
But for me, it lingered from 2003 until about 2016, and I finally, after evaluating my own life and my own situations. Of course, Bill Bean has been a client and a friend and a brother since 2010. And I finally talked to Bill and had him do a deliverance over the phone uh, for me in March of 2016. And a lot of things about my life changed after that. And as I said, I didn't talk about it openly for a long time, but it has become more, I think, incumbent upon me to start talking about it, to give
Yes.
individuals
Yes.
the experiences that I had. And it's, I still have a lot of friends that do paranormal investigations. I don't consider myself a paranormal investigator. I don't really go and do investigations.
Right.
I've been asked to by some friends, and I've got an interesting story that I could tell you about
Yeah.
a
I'm
house
looking forward to it.
that I was asked to spend the night in and just see what happened. Um, but what I consider myself as a researcher. I like to
Mhm.
research into the historical aspect, the pop culture, what's going on. That was one of the things that we got very deep into with the Mothman documentary, was actually talking to the eyewitnesses, letting them tell their story in long form interviews, not chopped up and edited, but just them talking, so that
Yeah.
you actually got their story. But I think, over the most recent years, it's become very important for me to start talking about the negative experiences. Early on, paranormal investigators would go on site and they would really give no consideration to the spiritual ramification. What were they going to come into contact with? Would it attach itself? And what damage could it do if it attaches itself?
Mhm.
More and more, I'm hearing about investigative teams that are taking a Bill Bean or a Tia Bell or
Yeah.
someone that can actually bless them before they go onto the property, bless them after they come off of the property.
Sure.
Holy water, prayers, uh, ashes, incense, all of
The
those
whole
things,
nine.
that
Yeah.
the whole lot that comes into play. And I'm glad. And I right before COVID hit, I attended a presentation here in London, Kentucky, where I am now, by a paranormal team out of Lexington. And it was very interesting listening to them talk about the process that they go through before they even show up at the physical location that they're going to be researching and investigating. And so the spiritual element, that thing that we've never really talked about,
Hmm.
is getting talked about, and it is getting attention, and it's getting credible conversation started, so that people understand, there is a danger when you start delving into some of this.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to it already, and it made me think, because in the beginning it just seemed like a lot of these investigators weren't fully trained. They were kind of learning on the fly. I mean,
Hmm.
they studied a little bit. They said, "Hey, I want to go and I want to be a paranormal investigator, but I don't know everything that I need to do, but I'm going to find out." And that was dangerous, because going in without cleansing themselves
Yes.
first, the proper ways that we know our good buddy Bill Bean knows how to do,
Hmm.
that left a lot of these um, cursed themselves, or
Yes.
vulnerable, maybe vulnerable to attachments, is a better way to put that. But I look, to me, it's being cursed. It's somehow picking up something that is going to that you can actually carry with you. And that's what you were saying about Point Pleasant.
Yes.
There were attachments not only to you, but to your family as well.
Yes.
There was a lot of, just downward spiraling things that took place after all those frequent visits. And that's why you needed the likes of a Bill Bean to help. But I guess now it's like these guys are much more trained. Not everybody, but they're much more trained. So they're going in much more prepared. But there's also a lot more activity taking place. So do you feel as though there's a battle happening on the forefront between good and evil, or is it's just always something that's existed, just an ongoing battle? I mean, from your perspective, of course.
Well, I think, I think it's both. It's an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing fight and process that is not going to end anytime soon, I don't think. I do think that it's getting worse in that, and by worse, I mean, I think we're seeing more instances. I don't necessarily mean that they haven't always been happening, but we're talking about them more. We're having shows like this, and like Warrior Mode, and like the Kev Baker Show, and Truth Frequency, and the Horsefly Chronicles that I did with the great couple out of New Jersey. And we're having dialogue. We're talking about these things, and it's getting people to come forward, and they're like me. They may not have talked about this in the past, and they're willing to come forward now and talk, because it's a show where we're not going to make fun. We're not going to ridicule. We're not going to point a finger. We're giving you a platform. Because one of the things that I've discovered, again, over my years, is that being able to talk about something really helps you get over it. It really, it's that cathartic process of getting it out of your mind, getting it out of your psyche, and actually just having a conversation. And sometimes we as hosts don't even have to say anything. It's just them talking about it. So I think that's happening. I think the other thing, we've discussed this ad nauseum on Warrior Mode, is talking to Bill and Tia Bell that I talked to, that I still represent, and then some of our other guests, how that through the pandemic, when people were stuck at home, they weren't able to leave these locations where they were being oppressed, and there was hauntings going on. So those instances did intensify. They did get worse because these individuals, they weren't going to work. They weren't going grocery shopping. They were staying inside. They were quarantined. They were in this location that is causing them such trauma 24/7. And those instances were getting worse. We have seen, two things on the rise during the pandemic. One of those is suicide, and the other is domestic abuse, both for partners and children. Those two things.
About it? I haven't heard anything about that. See, you're doing your research. How come they're not talking about that on the news? I don't hear anything about that. Nobody's saying. Am I wrong for saying this? Because where's the information? Because to me, it seems like that's not something that you would want to talk about. Why? Because we're in the midst of a pandemic. Why would you say that? That's going to push people back out into the essential harm's way, let's just say Big Brother is trying not to do. Right. They want you to stay indoors, distance yourself, and just try to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So to talk about a lot of abuse, or to talk about suicides in the households that people are pretty much quarantined to, that might not be a really good idea. So.
Yeah, well, it's and I sat in about, I guess, 9 months into the pandemic. I sat in a management training class for my 9-to-5 job, for managing broadcasting radio stations, and one of the presenters was talking about the trends that we were seeing as the pandemic was waning, and as we're actually getting research data in, and some of that research was showing, from a law enforcement standpoint, DUIs had plummeted. Nobody was getting DUIs because nobody was out drinking and driving. They were all drinking at home. So the DUIs were on a decline. However, 911 calls of child abuse and spousal abuse had skyrocketed because people were staying home drinking, getting angry, and then taking it out on their family members. So we saw
Right.
that, and then we actually I manage 3 radio stations, and one of those is a classic country radio station, and we partnered with 2 other organizations here in southeastern Kentucky in March when things started opening back up here, and we did a limited seat music venue for musicians. And I knew that the one of the organizers was extremely passionate about it, and it wasn't until we started planning and we got the first concert underway and we started talking, and I was interviewing her for a radio show, and she explained to me that the reason that she was so passionate about it was that several of her musician friends had committed suicide during the pandemic because what had been their livelihood, which was singing, but also their catharsis, their way of expressing themselves, their way of emoting, that had been taken away from them. So they were not in a good place, and so they ended up killing themselves. So we've seen that, and no, we're not talking about it. But it's out there. That is one of the what I would say the after effects of the pandemic, and we're going to continue to see a lot of those things. Just because a lot of the restrictions are being lifted, and you don't have to wear masks, and people are being vaccinated. That's the pandemic. That is the medical side of it. There's so many other things that we're not even talking about right now, from an economic standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, from an education standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint. All of these are ripples that have been created by the pandemic, and we're light is being shed on it, and we're starting to talk about it, but we're still, I was talking with some clients today, we're still probably, we're going to continue to see economic impact of the pandemic for at least another 12 to 18 months.
It's quite prevalent right now. I'm noticing some things, and I had a pretty long-winded conversation with my boss just a couple days ago about this ripple effect that you're talking about, and it's not pretty. It's inevitable, because of everybody, or the amount, not everybody, but the amount of people that are staying home, the shortages that are happening because of the consumption of the people that are staying home. It was written all over the walls. Why couldn't we see that sooner? But is there anybody really to blame? See, it seems like whenever things like this happen, Travis, it seems like we're always just a natural instinct to try to find somebody to blame. But I'm not sure there's really anybody or any society or any group in particular that you could just literally point the finger at and say, it's your fault. It's your fault. Or it's you all's fault. You all created this. Now, I could play devil's advocate with myself and say, oh, well, we can narrow it down, Travis. We can say, we can do that, right? But at the end of the day, are you really going to have the ultimate answer that you're looking for? And I'll let you speak on that.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing. So, 5 years from now, we're going to be able to look back and see what we should have done when the pandemic hit. Right now, we're still in the middle of it. So, no, I don't think you can point your finger and blame. You can't blame any particular political party. You can't blame any one facet of our society for what's going on. Because if you didn't tell people to wear masks and the coronavirus spread and more people died, then it would be your fault. If you do tell people to wear masks and stay home, then you're impacting the economy, but you're slowing that growth, but you've screwed up the economy, so it's your fault. So you're right. We're always trying to find someone to blame. And I remember right after 9/11, I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I was in the CNN studio, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the show. It was an afternoon talk show, had a female host, and we were discussing, because this would have been November of 2001, so just a couple of months after September 11th. And one of the topics was there had been a bomb or a terrorist threat on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. So they had shut the bridge down.
Mm-hmm.
And you had two factions that were speaking their mind. Those saying we can't keep doing this every time there's a terrorist threat. We have to live our lives. And those saying no,
Yep,
we're shutting the bridge down, because
right.
if it is a credible threat and people die, then then that's on us. So
Yep.
there's always two sides to at least two sides to every one of these predicaments and these problems
Yep.
that present themselves. So no, it's no one's fault. This is one of those things that has happened. What I think we have to do, those of us like you and I and Bill and Kev that have a platform, those of us who are thinkers, those of us who can critically think, we have to simply look at this situation and see what has been the pros, what has been the cons, what have we learned, what have we rediscovered. And I told someone just the other day, the first part of the pandemic, being in the role that I am, where I manage 3 stations, I have people answer to me, I'm in the media, I'm in the broadcasting world. I was going and working my day because we were considered essential employees and essential workers. So we were at the radio station, keeping everyone informed, keeping everyone up to date on what was going on. I had just hired a new salesperson, so I was getting them trained, and we were doing a lot of continuing learning and continuing education. Got her certified in several different sales protocols. But I was coming home at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and I was on my phone until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning with other managers, with other station owners, with other people on TV and radio and ad agencies and PR, trying to figure out how we were going to weather this storm, how we're going to make this work, how we're going to stay afloat, how we're not going to, lose our livelihoods and end up homeless and on the streets. And so there was all of this talk going on. So 6, 7 months into that, what I discovered was there really were some positive things to come out of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't like, most people don't like hearing that. They don't like talking about it, but there's been some good things. We've rediscovered a sense of community. Communities have pulled together.
Yep.
We've rediscovered the importance of family and friends and not being able to see them. I didn't get to see my family for almost 4 months. I was quarantined in one state. They all live in another. I didn't get to see them. I missed, I missed Easter. I missed birthdays. I missed Mother's Day. All last year, wasn't able to see them, wasn't able to see my kids. But we rediscovered how important family is.
Yep.
We rediscovered how important it is that if I want to leave my house and get in my car and go to the movie theater or go to a restaurant or go to a ball game or a concert, I can do that.
Yeah.
So we rediscovered the sense of liberty and freedom that were just words for a long time. We had not ever, it had been a long time in this country since the concept of our God-given inalienable rights being taken away was very much a reality. That, you couldn't go in and sit at a restaurant. Well, that just, that's not something we've ever been really used to in this country as a whole. Now, obviously, when you start looking at it from a racial standpoint, there have been groups of people that are very used to that.
Yeah.
Not being able to go in and not being able to do things.
Yeah.
So I think as a whole, it really got us talking and thinking about the things that aren't really important. And then, of course, you've got the masses that hoarded toilet paper and Clorox and bleach and are now doing it with gas. And so, so it's always, checks and balances. It's checks and balances. We saw what happened with this pandemic. We saw how people behaved. We saw how people acted. And honestly, I say we just rediscovered a sense of community in some ways. And then we found a lot of people that were basically thumbing their nose at everybody else. They didn't care about the restrictions and the guidelines. They didn't want to wear the mask. They don't want to take the vaccines. And those, my thing about those are personal choices. That's on you. That's on you. You choose to do what you want to do. But at the same time, sometimes personal choices impact others around us, and we have to take that into account. We have to make that consideration.
Yeah, and we spoke about that numerous times on many shows, but the warrior mode, the Warrior Mode show, we talk about that all the time. And,
Absolutely.
you know, between you, myself, Kev, and Bill, we all have somewhat differences in
Hmm.
opinions about, you know, the situation with the vaccines and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, we all agree that it should be personal choice. And that's what we're talking about now. That still has to be something that you have the option to you know, make a decision on.
Yes.
And it you know, everybody's scenarios are different. Again, something we talked about. Everybody's scenarios are different. So just depending on what my lifestyle's like, and I express to you what it's like here for me in my homestead. So I'm okay for now. But
Right.
my wife and daughter are talking about going to Iceland again.
Mm.
So if I want to go to Iceland with them, then I'm going to have to
Have to.
become vaccinated. So
Right.
so that's an ultimatum for me. So how bad do I want to travel? You know, that beautiful land they have over there. I've been twice, by the way. You know, I really want to go back. You know, and I don't want to have them, you know, leave me for that period of time, however long that might be. Okay.
Hmm.
Without me being there, you know, based on a decision that, you know, whether I make it or not. But either way it goes, I'm going to have to make some kind of decision, even if it's
Right.
all right, well, you two go have a good time, be safe, you know, we'll communicate. But it's just a tough place to be right now. It's never been a situation like this that I can recall in my life on this planet, you know. So
No.
it's just I don't know. I don't know, Travis. Like, you know how I feel about it. It's gonna take something like that for me.
Yeah.
It really put me in a situation where I have to say, do I want to do this or not? So I've never, and everybody that's asked me, you know, would I take the vaccine or would I get vaccinated? I've said I don't know 100%. It would take something really serious for me to make that decision. But
Yeah.
until I'm put in that position like that, then I'm not going to, because I'm never really sick, or, you know, and I'm doing my job too. I wear my mask. I'm
Hmm.
out there all day in all kinds of different facilities, and I travel between states, at least the
Yep.
DMV, you know, that the, you know, um, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia slash
Yep.
PA borders. So, and I wear my mask faithfully when I'm doing such. So that's my take on it. But
Hmm.
your situation, much different.
It is. I had pneumonia 5 years ago. I didn't get it treated, so I've got one bad lung, one good lung. Both of my kids have pre-existing breathing conditions. Both are asthmatic. My ex-wife is a cancer patient right now, undergoing cancer treatment. My parents are in that compromised age bracket. My dad was a coal miner in his
Yeah.
70s. My mom's in her 60s. Um, I've got a brand new nephew that just turned a year old. So all of these different uh, all of these different angles and perspectives had to come into play for me. I'm also
Yeah.
I'm in the community. I'm out.
Yes.
Like you, I wear my mask still. I mean,
Yeah.
Kentucky is lifting the mask mandate on if you've been fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear the mask. I still wear it when I'm out in public. Ironically, some of the, I was talking about the positives. I'll tell you one of the funny positive things that I really rediscovered is just how nasty we are as human beings. I mean, it never even crossed my mind when I'm out, pumping gas. I'll pump gas, I'll get in my car and start eating without washing my hands after
Right.
touching
Right. Right.
a gas pump that, thousands of people have been touching.
Right.
Or I didn't realize how often I touched my face either through the course. And they were telling you,
Mhm.
don't touch your face, your mouth, your eyes, your nose. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's like I didn't realize how often that was something that I did. And I think there's, it's created, I think, some new habits. I think hand sanitizer in a car and in a place of
Mhm.
business is going to be there for a very long time. I
Mhm.
think,
Yep.
the social distancing in a lot of things, it's going to be there for a little while. But it's about personal choices. I have been vaccinated. My entire family has been. Now I'll tell you, and I've been honest with people. It kicked my butt. Both
Yeah.
rounds kicked my butt.
Yeah.
And I had the flu symptoms. My left arm killed me because I got the shot in my left arm because I'm right-handed. And I had heard that it could cause pain. Well, it did. I couldn't move my arm for about 36 hours. I could bend it
Wow.
at the elbow, but I couldn't raise it. It just felt like, it literally felt like someone was standing beside of me and beating it with a baseball bat. That's what it felt like.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I had the headache and the nausea, I had all of those, but I had them for about 24 hours. I got the second dose at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, and I was fine. I didn't feel it. Life was good until about 3 o'clock that afternoon. 3 o'clock that afternoon, I started feeling it. I started slowing down. I started feeling groggy. I started feeling nauseous. I started having all of those symptoms. So I went home. I told my team at the stations, I'm like, I will not be in tomorrow. I'm going home to rest. Um, I got home and fell asleep, slept for about 3 hours, woke up, watched some TV, couldn't move my left arm. Hurt, had the flu symptoms, the fever, the chills, all of that. And Derek, exactly 3 o'clock the next day, I was fine. And the way I knew it was my arm had literally been killing me up until I went to pick up something and I accidentally used my left hand. And why I used it, I have no clue, because like I said, I'm a righty. I used my left hand and I was like, well, hell, I can actually move my arm and it doesn't hurt. No, there's no pain. It's fine. I don't have any. And after that, the symptoms and the side effects were gone. It was a 24-hour window. And after that, I was fine and good to go.
Your symptoms and everything that you experienced is the first that I've heard out of the people that I know. And a couple of my guys at work, drivers, I manage the fleet. Probably, I would have to say it's not a very big fleet, but half of them have gotten their vaccines. One of them is going to get his. Matter of fact, he went to get his today. Okay, and just a little fatigue is all I'm hearing. For a little while, but that's all I've heard. You experience more, and I think if you want to be a supporter of the vaccine, and really get to the nitty gritty of how it affects the body of somebody who may be asymptomatic or have these underlying conditions. Well, maybe that's the medicine attacking those things.
Well, and that's what they're saying. And they're saying it's possible that if you have had COVID, when you get the vaccine, that your body is going to react more harshly. Now, and I say that because in December 2019 into January 2020, I came back from Virginia right after Christmas. And the day after Christmas, I was sitting in my office and I was working, and it was like someone just threw a heavy blanket over top of me. And I started slumping, and I felt like crap, and I was running a fever. And so I went home and I got my Dayquil, I got my NyQuil, I got a humidifier, all of those things. And I crawled into bed, and I had all of the typical signs of COVID. I had a fever about 103, 104 that I couldn't break. It would break and it would come right back. And then it would break and it would come right back. My body ached. That was on a Thursday. That was on a Wednesday. I got up on Thursday. I was going to try to go to work, and I threw my legs out of the bed and I stood up and I hit the floor. My legs did not work. They would they would not hold my body. They would not move. I was actually more scared about that than anything else, because I really was thinking that I was paralyzed with something, because my legs would not work.
Yeah. That's scary. Very scary.
I mean, I crawled back in bed. If I had to go to the bathroom, I had to crawl on my stomach, and military crawling on my stomach to get
using your forearms.
Using the forearms. I would get to the toilet. I would have to, get up on the seat, and then I would crawl right back to bed. I mean, it was just not that my legs would not work. And that was the case for about 2 days. I just stayed in bed.
Wow.
Upper respiratory problem. I wheezed, I coughed, I had congestion in my chest. Just everything. And it was about a week-long process. It was, as I came back from Virginia on the 26th of December, and I was still sick the first week of January.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think probably I had, and I know people say, well, that's very early. Well, I've got friends and family that are medical professionals, and
Hmm.
they were telling me that the symptoms of COVID were being diagnosed in this country months before it was ever declared an issue. There were
Hmm.
doctors were diagnosing people with upper respiratory infection, flu-like symptoms, and they just didn't
Hmm.
know what, they didn't have a name for it. But that's the way that they were diagnosing it. So I think it had been here for a while.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that, I think I probably had a mild case of it.
Yes,
And
you did.
I don't know.
That's what it
I don't
sounds
know.
like.
Yeah, I don't know if I did or not. I never got tested after that because I never showed any signs after that, and I never really thought about it until months into the pandemic. And I'm like, well, I might have actually had this. I could have been tested for the antibodies and things like that, but I never did. But it's like I said, my personal philosophy is I took the vaccine. I don't take the flu vaccine. Don't ask me why I
Mhm.
took this, and I don't take the flu
Mhm.
vaccination, but I did take this one because I do think for me personally, it was the right choice for me. It was the right choice for my family and those people that I'm around. I know my team uh, at my stations. You know, my youngest is 25 and my oldest is in his 60s, and the two that are older in age were very, very concerned about the
Mhm.
COVID symptoms
Yeah.
being diagnosed and what it was, what was going to happen. And that's the thing with this particular disease. I know that, we've kind of gone around every topic out there, but I think, this is one of those conversations that it does have to be had.
Yes.
That's the dangerous
Absolutely.
thing about this disease is it impacts people differently.
Yep.
I could get it and have every symptom. You could get it, be walking around and not even know that you have it. Or somebody could get it. Well, one of my team members has a family member, ran marathons, was in great health, contracted COVID. He's now in a hospital waiting for a lung transplant because his lungs are destroyed.
Yeah. It and
So
and no, I'm right there with you. And having this discussion is important, and I want the audience to hear this. Um, and it's important to me because when you have a disease that is as powerful as COVID is,
mhm,
and it's taken so many shapes and so many different forms. I think that's why you have so many people out there that are willing to just take the vaccine.
yes,
It's a different kind of beast, so to speak. It's a different thing than what we're used to. So it's a it's kind of like rolling the dice. Do I want to take the chance? Do I really want to take the chance? My mom has plenty of underlying symptoms, plenty of them.
hmm
There was, why me personally, why would I not want my mother to have the opportunity to survive in this situation, knowing her conditions, so of course I would want that for her. So I think that there was a lot of people out there that, just like you said, you work you're working around people who are concerned. You're their
hmm
boss. Okay, that's kind of it's kind of unfair to them.
it is.
If you want to look at it like that. Now you can act like you don't care, or
hmm
quote unquote you care, but you're not showing them that you care,
Yeah,
because they're waiting for you to make a move to really prove it. Because other than that, you're just saying it. Hey, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. I got my man, or what have you. And then meanwhile, you're putting your own self at risk, because
yes,
guess what? You had things that personally that you need to be concerned about. So I'm trying to make sense out of it. Uh, my situation again is different. So
hmm
when I'm trying to communicate to others, I got to be fair. I can't be that always that stern guy. Oh man, I'm not me. It'll never happen. And I don't never do that. I don't never say that this will never happen, because you're putting yourself in a pretty bad situation if you're gonna start concluding something that you don't know. You don't know whether or not truthfully what you would do in that situation or not. Well,
no,
guess what, given this life or death situation that the entire world has succumbed to, you know what, some people said, I'm going to take my chances. I mean, we get we take medicines all the time. We're
Yes.
always in the doctor's office. They're putting us under with anesthesia. There's always something that is not completely in our control if we want something else fixed. So that's what it boils down to. I want this taken care of. What do I have to do? What do you have to do to me so I can get this taken care of? Well, guess what? The vaccine is the same thing. It's the same thing.
And you hit the nail on the head, Derek, when you said everyone's situation is different. And it is. There is no blanket answer. There's no blanket procedure, and there's no blanket decision. It is everyone's decision as to what they want to do. There are, we've not seen anything like this since, we haven't seen a scare like this since the 80s with the AIDS and HIV and that pandemic.
Yep.
And of course, that was partially it was part of one small subset of society, one culture, but it impacted everyone else
because it was sexually transmitted.
Sexually transmitted.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's not saying, homosexual sex or heterosexual. It's just if you were sexually active, there was the potential that you were going to contract HIV and AIDS.
Yep.
So it got that got a conversation going on in this country that had not happened. And we've talked about this on Warrior Mode.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see, they're pandemics for a reason, because they don't happen all the time. So, you have this pandemic outbreak, vaccination has come up. There was no vaccine for AIDS, but if there had been, don't you think we would have been having that same conversation?
The same conversation. That's a really good example.
And, who would be for it? Who would be against it? And where would you fall in that line? And then, you look, and we talked about this, I've talked to my mom and my dad who had the polio vaccine in the arm, the little round scar.
You see the lot of the older people with the round scar on their shoulder, side of their shoulder. Yep.
And so that was, there was a polio pandemic in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And when my dad was a kid, he said, he went into school one day and he just got grabbed by the arm in the classroom, taken to the nurse's office. He was given the vaccine. He was sent home. Parents weren't notified. There was no discussion. It was just done. Now, different time, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still talking about the health, the well-being of our children, of our elderly, and of ourselves. And so I think it has to be more of an informed, intelligent conversation like you and I have, because Bill is not going to take the vaccine, and Bill has made that very clear that unless something happens,
right,
where that he has to, he's not going to. And I respect Bill for that. That's his decision.
Yep. Same scenario that
same scenario.
Yep.
So, but I think the conversation has to be like the ones that we have: informed, educated, intelligent, and willing to listen, and not just, I'm dead set against the vaccine or everybody should be vaccinated. It can't be one or the other.
No. And that's why it just leaves it to essentially just an open platform or an open conversation rather, because, it's going to go either way. We can have the conversation. We can choose to not have this conversation. Either way it goes, we're all still subject. We're walking around vulnerable, whether we like it or not, and we don't like it, but we're still vulnerable. Now, I guess a major thing that's been coming up in conversations I've been in lately is how young the vaccine is. But what's your take on that? With it being, such a young formula, and we've put so much faith into it to where I believe it's over half of the population now has had the vaccine. So, are you comfortable with? I mean, think about, before you answer that, Travis. Think about how it was. Even I was like, everybody was hanging, pretty much, at the edge of their seats, waiting for a vaccine. Remember, it was like, we can't do this. All the public officials were coming on television, on the radio. Well, we're not going to be able to do this until we come up with a reliable vaccine. We're not going to be able to do this. So everybody, including me, was okay. So, and then what couple reports would come out. Oh, such and such, Russia has, come up with something. Whoever else, they think they found the answer. Oh, is it? No, Fauci or somebody who knows more than the rest of us would come on there and say, no, that's not going to work. That was false rumors or what have you. And so what do we go back to doing? Sitting on the edge of our seats, waiting for something that will, even me, I'm including myself in this, waiting for, why? Because you needed something, right? Didn't we? We needed something, right? They finally found something. They finally found something. So do you think that they were going to wait, Travis, before they started administering it? Or do you think they were going to do what they already did? It's a rhetorical question, Travis.
I think, and I've made this, I think I've made this statement publicly on Warrior Mode. I don't think that this entire pandemic was any type of grand conspiracy. I don't believe that. I don't think that the coronavirus was released intentionally. I do tend to fall on the side of thinking that it is man-made. It is a biological weapon. It has been manipulated. I don't think it was meant to get out, but I think we knew enough about it, which is why we were able to get the vaccines as quickly as we did. And I also think that's why that there is varying levels of efficacy with those vaccines, because it's still based on pieces of information about something that we were toying with. We know that all the governments of the world do it. They're not supposed to do it, but they all do it. They all still research and meddle in biological chemical warfare. It's happening. So I do believe that it was a biologically produced weapon. I think it was being weaponized. I just don't think it was meant to get out. And that's the problem when you start screwing around with Mother Nature and you start screwing around with the laws of God and nature and the universe. You don't always know what the outcome is going to be. You can plan for just about anything, but I guarantee you that the one thing you didn't think could happen, which was, somebody accidentally got stuck while they were in the lab. They've been exposed. Now they're out there. They don't even know they've been exposed to it. So I think that what you saw with the government saying, we're waiting. They were waiting. They were waiting to try to get as much information as they could about something that they had created to figure out how that they were going to get the public vaccinated without saying, by the way, we created this. We're sorry.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why I kind of raised that question and just that whole, reaccount of the way it played out, because that's what happened. And, we can all sit up here and say you were feeling different, or, now granted, there might have been those people that said, well, if they come up with it, I'm still not taking it. And some of those people are biting their tongues right now. Because they turned around and end up taking it as well, because hey, this isn't this disease doesn't pick a political party. It doesn't say, hey, I'm over here with the Democrats, and I'm not messing with the Republicans. Y'all good, don't worry about it. It's nothing like that. It's attacking everybody. Heck, how many people do you hear in Bill Bean's prayer list that have from COVID? Have COVID. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the prayer list is really long on Warrior Mode, and
it's getting bigger, and there's more and more instances of COVID disease among the individuals. And I think it's stupid that we have politicized a pandemic. I mean, do you really think that 60 years ago people were saying polio was Republican or Democrat? Were they saying that about smallpox? Were they saying it about No, they weren't. They weren't. No, they weren't. It was a pandemic. People were sick. People were dying. Something had to be done, and so we did what we thought was right. And again, we make mistakes. It's part of human nature. One of my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs, there's it's called I just lost it. Permanent Reminder is the name of the song, and there's a line in it. He said, it's human nature to miscalculate, and it is. It's in our nature to make the wrong decision. Yeah.
So let's take it to a different a different height in the conversation. If you're an extraterrestrial society, and you're looking at, and you've been studying humankind on planet Earth for centuries. I mean, do you look at us right now and you say, hey, they're in a really, really, really vulnerable stage right now. I think now's the time to strike. Now, granted, they've been striking here or there in the behind, the darkest regions, and they really didn't want to be discovered. But I mean, is planet Earth really, really vulnerable right now? Does it seem like we're pushing each other or pushing us as humanity further apart from each other, or do you think there's a chance in the near future that we're going to be able to come together and bond more? Because I mean, it's a tough question. I know it is, Travis, because you mentioned how in a way the pandemic has kind of brought some people closer together, but it's like I don't know if I could use double negative there, because how's it bringing us closer together when we're supposed to be 6 foot apart? That doesn't really make sense. So I mean, it's a multi-part question, but you know where I'm going with it.
I do.
What's happening? What's happening if you're the commander of this other civilization and it's time for you to make your move. Is now the time?
I think if we're looking at, let's say that the pandemic is a snapshot of our state of mind as human beings. I think in some ways we did grow closer and we did grow stronger together. We were, because we realized this disease was all over the world. And it was all over the world at the same time. That was something we didn't see. Going back to my previous analogy of AIDS and the HIV pandemic, it didn't spread around the world as quickly as we saw this spreading, obviously because you don't have to have sex to get the coronavirus. So you have to do is, come into contact, breathe it in, whatever. So it's obviously very different. So, we were watching, I was sitting in my office and I'm watching news on my computer, and I'm watching, it's happening in Italy, it's happening in London, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in China, it's happening in Africa, it's happening in the US, it's happening all, we're watching these, we're seeing the numbers rise. So I think globally it brought us together in a consciousness.
Right.
It divided us, it divided us in a lot of ways. Politically and religiously, it's divided us. It's divided us from an ideological standpoint: anti-vaccination, good vaccination, which vaccine do you take? So there's a lot of ways that it's divided us. Now, if I'm an extraterrestrial civilization out there in the cosmos, and I do believe that they exist, I don't think, and we've had this conversation. I think, aliens, UFOs, those types of things are there's multiple answers. I don't think any one is exactly the same. Some I think are extraterrestrial, some I think are spiritual beings, interdimensional beings, things like that. If I'm an extraterrestrial civilization and I'm looking at our world right now, I will say this. I would say that probably for the past decade, we've gotten more stupid when it comes to most things.
So you understand why it's an important question to ask.
It's an extremely important question to ask. I think we are technologically, we've advanced. Common sense wise, we've gone backwards. We've devolved when it comes to common sense, and that's across the board. And again, I don't bring any one political party into that. I'm a huge proponent of the fact that I think this country is ready for a legitimate third party, because I don't think either of the two parties is currently doing anything that's beneficial to the common person.
Bring the libertarians up a little bit more, man. Come on.
Something. There needs to be a legitimate third party, because both parties have gone so far off of their messaging and what they started out as, and both parties have flipped. I was because of my position and what I do, and I'm not going to say what event it was, but I was at a political event, a political fundraiser that took place last week, and it was a Republican fundraiser, and they were, the Republican Party was claiming that the Democrat parties were responsible for the Jim Crow laws in the South, and that the Democrat Party was the racist party. And I'm like, okay, but the Republican Party also used to be the party of Lincoln. It's not that party anymore, and the Democrats sure aren't the party that they used to be. You all have changed.
Yeah,
You've switched.
It's changed.
And you've gone so far away from what the political parties are supposed to do. And quite frankly, you can be part of any party, but if you are if you're not a good person before you get elected, you're not going to be a good person when you're in office.
Right. And your party affiliation does
doesn't
nothing
matter.
to help that.
No.
It does nothing to help that. And nobody wants to talk about that, though. That's what aggravates me, and that's why I'm not far anywhere. I'm right here where I need to be. I base decisions on the circumstances at hand, and in a broad perspective. That's unbiased and unselfish, because a lot of people are concerned about them and what's best for their families, and that's easy to do when you have so many others involved, and we're talking millions. Well, you're going to have to take a little bit more time to deliberate. You can, but you're just putting yourself in the same boat, same category as people saying, well, no, that's what you believe. That's what you think is right. Well, all we have is our own intuition and thoughts of what we believe is right. And it seems to me all these top officials just seem that they have their game plan is so much better than everybody else's, but they can't never seem to make it completely come to fruition. So, and
they're, and constantly fighting just so that you are right or your party is right. And again, I'm not trying to get this into a political context. But when you start talking about, especially like extraterrestrials and society, then you do start getting into that whole exopolitical, geopolitical as a world, as a culture, and this is true across the board. I mean, Kev will talk to us all the time about the government situation in the UK, there in Glasgow, and it's the same way in every single country. So I'm not politicizing this, because I hate when people start making everything political. Right. But at the same time, politics plays into everything that goes on in this world. Whether it's the US or it's the UK or it's Russia or Japan, politics does dominate. And so therefore we have to.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying. Yeah, I know. I'm just, but so I don't want people to think that are watching that, I'm trying to turn this into a political platform, because I'm not. I'm just saying we have to look at every single aspect when we start talking about this. You asked me, do I think that we're going to see some major, and we've talked about this on Warrior Mode, declassification and I don't know if we are or not. And even if we did, if the government gives me something, I'm still not going to believe every word of it.
Right.
Because they're still not giving me everything, because the governments never do. Right. Because knowledge is power. And if we have the power, then government doesn't have anything anymore.
Right. Well, let me answer my own question that I presented to you. And I got to thinking about it for a minute while you were talking, and, I had a little bit change of heart. And I feel as though if I were running this society, this ultra galactic society that was premeditatively, wanting to do something, I wouldn't dare touch the planet Earth right now. It's so infected. Look, you got the coronavirus here. Why would I want to, bring my, my culture there and set foot on that landscape, and who knows how it's going to affect my kind. So, I mean, think about it for a minute. I mean, you're talking about intelligent beings to travel from, galaxy to galaxy. It's something we can't do yet. So if you're studying, nope, I'll wait for this stuff to pass over. I'm just saying, and I'm cracking a little bit of fun at it, because
you have to,
because believe it or not, it's, we know they're already here. They've been, it's not even hypothetical question anymore, or what if, or no, there's true actual accounts. So I just think that, right now, guess what? We're the aliens.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not. I'm still not sure. Like in the medical field, especially if you're doing like psychology or sociology or psychiatry, when you're interning and you're doing your classes, they'll take you to mental institutes so that you can witness, so you can see the patients and watch it. I'm not so sure that that's not what extraterrestrials do with Earth. There's like, come on, we want to show you this really screwed up planet. There's some really messed up people. They've got some really weird ideas. They, it's kind of like it's a day trip, it's a school trip, a school outing, field trip. They're coming here, they're showing, okay, this is why we used to be like this. We're not like this anymore. We're trying to help them. I'm not so sure that's not the case.
Right. Well, and you're absolutely right. And there are some more intelligent beings, on this planet already.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's kind of a take your pick kind of thing here. If I'm going to study, somebody like you want to study something in depth. You want something interesting.
Right.
You want something interesting to look over, something interesting to cover. So, it's like, have fun with it while you can, because it's a big world. It's a big world that, you can start on one end and it's a 360-degree circle, right? Yep. And you can just work your way around it and, kind of have fun with it. I'm still more amazed with the oceanic type of life forms. I mean,
yes.
Creatures that already appear to be aliens. I mean, already look like aliens, and we know of their existence, most of them, but they're still uncharted areas of the planet and the depths of the seas and the oceans, yes. And creatures that we don't even know about. So I think I'm circling around to say, we spend a lot of time putting our attention, when I say we, just all of us, we spend a lot of time putting our attention in hypothetical thoughts. Okay. We, even on Warrior Mode, we talk about these entities. Now, things that are actually happening, that's what we're dealing with. We're going to deal with those attachments because that's happened. Right. For yourself, you've dealt with them. That's what we're dealing with. Until some major invasion happens, we're not concerned about that. A major invasion from outer space. We're dealing with the stuff that we do have to deal with now. Those demons that exist, those deeply rooted hexes, vexes, and curses, and things that we all know are real because people are experiencing these things on a daily basis. So I tell people all the time, and I do this, Travis, I pick my battles. I'm not gonna just raise an argument or raise a fight just for no reason, because look, I need to save that energy for something else. You know what I mean? So I wanted to give a shout out to Andre Berry. Hey, what's up, Andre? Thanks for tuning in. Andre was a guest on the Speak Your Mind show at TV Free Baltimore last night. Yeah. It was a really, really good show. Thanks for coming out. And I do the acting. And by the way, you are also a documentary filmmaker. I know we talked about it a little bit. Yep. I know Mercedes jumped in and she actually said that she loved her. This is her here. Mercedes, who was a great guest on the Warrior Mode as well, said, I love the Moth Man documentary that you were part of, Travis. My whole family watched this years ago. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will say this. I watched it again recently. It has not aged well, and neither have I from what I've seen. So I'm just going to toss that out there right now. I did watch it with my kids because they had not seen it. So we watched it a few months ago, and I'm like, wow, this does not stand up to the test of time.
Yeah, well, I went online because I was just, I just Googled your name. I said, you know what? I never Googled Travis's name before, so I did. And you got a pretty nice Travis Shortt is quite popular on the internet there. I mean, they got you all over. They got some videos of you giving speeches and all kinds of different images of you. And it started a long time ago because, like you said, I have not aged well, which I tend to disagree. And if my colleague Johnny Lang was here, he'd be like, "Are you hitting on Travis Shortt?" No, I'm not hit. I can't never I'm a heterosexual male. I can't never say nothing about another man around Johnny Lang that makes it seem like I'm giving him a shout out for the way he looks. I'm like, look, you got to be comfortable with who you are, man, and be honest. If somebody look good, they
absolutely.
look good. They look good. If you think they look good, it's not that hard. All you got to do is work with jaw, bone structure, jaw lines. Okay. Mm-hmm. Go top to bottom. What do the eyes look like? What's the eyebrows? Does it all match? Well, gosh darn, that's a pretty put together good gentleman, right? That's all you got to do. It's not that hard.
And you play to your strengths. You play to what's good. I've got good hair, so I play the hair up. It's good hair. I play it. I use it. It's what I go with.
And it's true.
And of course.
Yeah, you got the talent on. I should have whipped out my talent.
Talent never comes off.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I like that talent. I'm gonna find me something as cool as that. On the Warrior Mode show when you broke that out, man, I was like, what? I thought it was an alligator tooth or something.
No, I'll send you a link because I'm actually looking at getting something. Well, my kids have already. There's two things that I want. So depending on which one they get me for Father's Day, I'm getting myself the other. So I'm going to send you the link so that you can see it. This is really cool. You'll like it.
Cool. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have no problems making a purchase on something that I like. So, but yeah, and it's kind of wild, right? This was a good first show.
Oh, this is great.
I told you I wasn't going to keep you that long. And look, it's already an hour and 17 minutes. So I'm not going to keep you too much longer now. But, this is, a platform for everybody. I just want to talk to the audience real quick. We want you guys to come on here with whatever situations that you might be having. If you just want to have a basic conversation like Travis and I were having this evening, about different things that are going on in the world, this is going to be a platform for that as well. But also, if it's not Travis himself, we have a pool of people who are very trustworthy, caring, professional individuals that study the paranormal, study the occurrence of entities and things that invade people's lives and destroy their lives. Travis was saved. We know people that can come in and essentially save your life, save not just your life, your family's life, people who are in your near circle who you care about. And some people and a lot of people have made the choice, Travis, to go ahead and do something like this, and they have not regretted it, Travis, right?
No.
I mean, and if you want to just add to that, I mean, we're here, we take the time out. It seems like we do 3 or 4 shows a week. I know I'm probably on 3 or 4 shows a week now, Travis, including our Sunday Warrior Mode show that we do faithfully every Sunday. And it's just, I just want people to know that we're here. We're putting together a pretty nice team. And we're gonna be there for you. We're gonna be there for you, and we hope that you're there for us when we need you. So,
I echo exactly what Derek said. You will not find, in my opinion, 3 better men than you, Bill Bean, and Kev Baker.
Thank you. Same goes for you, brother. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I know. I believe that with all of my heart. I've known Bill 11 years. Kev, I've known just shy of that because I booked Bill Bean on Kev's show years ago. And then Kev and I've stayed in touch. And then now with Warrior Mode and the 4 of us being hosts, being part of it. And you and I had met tangentially through Bill a couple of years ago when he was on your show, the TV show that you had.
Yep.
And then you came on to Warrior Mode, and then it just clicked. And it was like, we were it was a four-wheel car, but we were only running on three wheels. And then Derek came along, and then we got that fourth wheel, and everything started firing then.
Yeah.
And we started really doing, I think, some of our best work on the show, because when Warrior Mode started, that was just Bill and Kev. Well, Bill started it, and as Kev said Sunday, he felt sorry for Bill because Bill couldn't get his streaming to work right. So Kev volunteered to start producing, and then he started co-hosting, and then Bill invited me, and then we got you on board. So it was one of those things that the progression was very organic and very natural, and it fit. And I don't think you could have forced the dynamic that we have on the show. But I will say, and Derek mentioned it, I'm a very easy person to find on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I'm active on all of those. I do a lot of stuff. There's on Facebook, there's a Darkwing's Moth Man movie, which is the Facebook page for that. I try to post as much stuff as I can there. A lot of it comes from Lon Strickler about winged humanoids and things like that. So I try to keep that updated and try to update on what's happening with the re-release of the documentary. But you can find me. My contact information is there. My phone numbers, my emails. I am a very easy person to find. If somebody ever says they can't get a hold of Travis Shortt or they can't find him, they are lying, because I am I check in at restaurants. I check in for businesses. I am all over social media. I'm very easy to find. If you have a Mothman story, if you've seen something, if you need help. I am not a deliverance minister. I'm not a minister of any type anymore, but I do have access to Bill Bean 24/7.
Yep.
I can get him sometimes, like Derek, and we can get him when other people can't.
That's right.
And so if there is a need, or there is an issue, or a situation, a circumstance, Bill used to travel a lot to do in-person deliverances. That's kind of stopped because of the pandemic, but he does do Skype, he does do phone, whatever he can do to help, he will do it. And like I said, he's just there's a lot of people. What I like about Bill is he's not your typical exorcist, TV preacher, radio preacher, deliverance minister. Bill's just down to earth. He likes to play his guitars. He likes to work out. But he likes to help people. And I think that we've got a good thing on Sunday nights, and looking forward to this week and the show that we've got going on.
Yeah, and Andre says, and this is what I hope for, Travis. This is what I hope, and this is a director of film here in Andre Barrett II. And they got the Necropolis project that's coming out, which I play in that. I play a zombie, aka a lurker is what is what we're called in that project. But this is awesome to hear from a director to say that this is awesome. Talking about this show, I could see this turning into an actual TV show. On our very first show. In which this was just pretty much an anointance type show. Is that the right word? Can I use that word, Travis? Just to show to showcase what we want to do, and what we're looking forward to in the future. And again, just having open platforms. We seemingly continue to create these platforms, Travis. It's like one isn't good enough for us or something. I mean, you got 3 radio shows. I mean, you're broadcasting nonstop for a living. You'll get off of this feed, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. And then it starts all over Monday.
Over Monday.
But I do, and actually, there's some weekends that it doesn't stop for me. There are some weekends that I'm out. Doing broadcasts for the radio station. I do a lot of shows. I still get invited to be a guest, to talk about Moth Man, to talk about the Darkwings documentary, to talk about my experiences, things like that. So it's nonstop. It really is. It's fun. I love it. But I was going to say, what I do love about, and again, this is another one of those positives out of the pandemic, is a lot of these platforms like StreamYard and Zoom and Skype, in a lot of ways, they got a lot better, and they got a lot more accessible for us to be able to launch platforms, to have shows, to have multiple shows. Don't get me wrong, there's technical problems. We have technical problems almost every Sunday, which is why which is why someone asked me, they're like, well, what time do you guys go live? I'm like 7-ish. And the emphasis is on the ish. It just depends on what's happening. We did Zoom. Zoom didn't work out for a lot of reasons. Skype has its problems, but it's worked better for us. So we're looking at some different options for Warrior Mode because it is growing. I mean, with that, those live views are getting up there every week. More and more people watching live, and then the downloads and the repeats and things like that. So, but it's nice to have technology this readily available, which even 10 years ago we didn't have. If you wanted to, 10 years ago, if you wanted to have a platform, you had to go through Blog Talk Radio. That was it. That was your only platform. If you wanted to make a name for yourself and you wanted to do something, and it's just become so much more. It's become more readily accessible to people, and that's what I love. That, and Kev does a show every single day. That man is a beast.
Yeah, and I've chimed into some of his feeds. I've gone on, and he's just, I mean, his technical skills is out of this world. I mean, he does these really elaborate shows, man. Every day.
And you can mention something to Kevin, all of a sudden it's on the screen. He's Googled it, he's pulled up a video, he's pulled up a picture, he's pulled up a news story, and boom, there it is. And it's just like, he's the fastest little Scotsman I know. He's just over there.
He is. He's really good.
He's top notch.
And I want to, I admire his style. I want to emulate some of what he's able to do. I even want to do it on our show here. And I have the capabilities, but like you said, I'm not going to be able to bring up stuff as rapidly as this gentleman. I mean, but he's very good verbally as well. I mean, he reads well. His dialogue is extraordinary. He also is lucky. He's got that stupid accent. Scottish brogue, man. I mean, man, I wish I had an accent like that.
I know. He's just so good at what he does.
Yeah, he is good. But you're good too. You got that radio voice where you're always, I mean, I just wing it every show, bro. Like I'm just like, hey, it's just. Some people call me Shortt. That's why it's funny every time, when Bill's talking about Maestro.
Yeah.
Every time he says Stro, I'm like, man, everybody calls me Stro. But I never told him that, So I'm just like, and my buddy Stro, the wrestler Stro. Every time he says, I'm like, me? Are you talking about me? I'm your buddy too. But I'm Derek Strowman to him. But it's all good though. But we have an awesome unit of guys. Our collective is amazing. It just seems like it's picking up. I mean, when I say picking up, it seems like the people who are watching us and watching our unit and our team, they're enjoying it, and that makes it all the more better for us. We're really appreciating how they appreciate us.
We do, and we do have some very faithful listeners. I mean, or viewers. I mean, there's Sundays there. Sometimes we have new because of the guests, and so you're going to get people that normally. But there's 50, 60, 70 people that are there every single Sunday, on top of the people for the guests. Now, I'll be honest, I'm going to be a little selfish right now. I really sometimes I'm like, maybe we don't need guests because the four of us, when we start talking about a topic, and sometimes it's like the guest gets in the way. It's like, no, let us talk. We've got this. But we've got some great guests on that show. I mean, we have, Lon Strickler, see, now I wish I hadn't started going to do names because now I can't.
Mercedes was a good guest.
Mercedes was a good guest.
And Joe's her husband, right?
Yep. And then we've got Stan Gordon, ufologist. Stan's a great guest. Laura Calhoun, who'll be on. Todd, great guests. I mean, we have some of the best guests in the field, in the genre of supernatural paranormal. Strowman, you mentioned Maestro.
Maestro.
Devin, the Hannibal, or the Cannibal. We've got him. We've got Liberty DeVito. I mean, my guy, Billy Joel's drummer.
I wasn't there for that one.
Man,
I gotta look back in the archives.
We're going to try to. And you know, it's so funny because of that show with Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get Liberty and his daughter Tori and Richie Canada, who was Billy Joel's guitarist,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, saxophonist, to actually present at an award ceremony for me.
Wow.
Here in Kentucky at the Appalachian Arts and Entertainment Awards.
They commuted there. They commuted there.
They did virtual, but they shot individual virtual award presentations in studios.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you know, they've agreed to appear this coming year if we're able to do it live, if their schedules permit. So I mean, it's just all of those, the way that the synergy works, the way the interconnectivity and things like that. It's been great. You know, we had Eddie Perez, who is a producer and director with Shameless, the Showtime series that ended here recently after I think 10 or 11 seasons. But Eddie's just a wealth of entertainment knowledge there in Hollywood. Great guy. He presented for me, as a matter of fact, too. I've got to stop using warrior mode to scout presenters.
It's okay. I think we're all doing it across the board, man. We're all doing it. Hey, look, listen. It's okay with us because we're genuine guys. I mean, I would definitely refer you to somebody that I know. I would say, and likewise, I'm sure, right? And that's why it works. Trusted guys, somebody you could say, absolutely, you want to get on his show, or absolutely, you want to support that gentleman, you know, because, you know, we know each other pretty well, and we know we have nothing but good intentions, and we treat people right. It's one thing if somebody comes back like, man, why in the world did you send me Travis Shortt's way? Like that guy. That guy just was. I tell you, man. Bill Bean. I tell you, never again. But no, it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that.
No,
if anything, it's like, thank you for that, and we do it across the board, Andre. If all this graphic stuff that you see as of late, that stuff comes from a gentleman by the name of Jay Roberts, and I think so. Yes,
I was going to say, I know, I don't know if he's watching live, but I wanted to. He did a great job on that banner that he created for the show tonight. Yes,
indeed. And matter of fact, let's see if I could just bring it up. Yeah, he's really, really good at his craft here, man. I'm.
Villain.
What'd you say? You look like a villain.
I kind of look like a Bond villain right there. I look like I should be, you know, petting a cat and telling James Bond he's going to die.
Where is that? Yeah, I know. Come here,
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get him a better headshot to use in the I think he grabbed that off my Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. That was a selfie that I took in my office.
But it doesn't look like it. You know, me personally, I think that's a pretty doggone image of you, man. Hey, I thought it looked pretty good.
Oh no, it is. I'm just like, I was looking at it there.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, where? It doesn't look like a selfie for one. You know,
it is. I grabbed that the other day in my office. I can't remember. We were making some announcement. We were doing. We had a radiothon that was for one of the hospice organizations in town. So I grabbed the selfie and with the caption of what we were working on, things like that. So,
but no, it's just good. It's just good teamwork across the board. It seems like we're all like, you know, one hand washing the other and helping each other. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and that's really the way. You know, a lot of things were founded anyway by just a simple barter system. It worked. It used to work. The country derived from it before, you know, the coin and the real currency started coming into play. That's how deals were done. I know how to manufacture this. You need that. You guys manufacture plenty of that stuff. I need some of that. How about we negotiate like that? And I think that's kind of what we're doing in our media industry, that we all seem to want to continue to be a part of. We keep Travis, we keep finding ways to occupy our time.
Yes.
Looking at cameras and talking to people via live streams, or just natural pre-recorded production. So I got a movie premiere tomorrow. It's a grand premiere red carpet event too.
Nice. I want to see pictures.
Yeah, and we're going to live stream that. So TV Free Baltimore is going to be there live streaming in the studio. So just fun stuff, man. And so yeah, but look, I don't want to keep you no more. Listen to me. I am honored right now that I've been able to keep you for an hour and 35 minutes and 28 seconds and counting.
and counting. Right?
Counting. Only because I know how busy you are, and just to come on this show was awesome. Thank you.
Well,
I want you on this show, period. But you know that already.
I know, and I'm going to be here as often as I can. Typically on Fridays, and that's typically I would be driving to Virginia. I will be next Friday, as a matter of fact. My son graduates from high school next year, so our next week. So I will be driving to Virginia. But I'm going to try to leave early enough so that I can be in Virginia in time to do the show if there is one. So I think, because I think graduation's next Saturday, not next Friday. So if I can leave out mid-afternoon on Friday, then I should be able to be situated in Virginia and be able to do the show if there is one. I think we're being fluid with this.
Yes.
So whatever works, I will be there when I can. And do not be honored to have me here. Just I'm glad to be part of it. I love you, man. And I think there's a lot of other potential for us to do other projects together.
Yes, and we talked about it a little bit in the past. I know we got to get back on it, and it will, we will. It'll happen. It'll happen in time. So I'm looking forward to that, because that's a big time project that we were talking about, and we'll keep that a little bit quiet for now.
Well, there's kind of two big time projects there. There's two there and probably some more. But yeah, I think that's something, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you do decide to, if you're going to travel and you do the vaccination, you know what we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to take the show live to Scotland and actually broadcast with Kev from Glasgow.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that he really wants us to do.
I know. And I would love it.
I've never been there.
I haven't either.
It's been years since I set foot in the UK, and I was just a little kid. So I don't really have a really good recollection of it, other than the cars were riding on the opposite side of the street, and I wasn't used to that. That's something that they do there. It's a little bit, but I remember that from however old I was. But it's different. It's a different world. It's not the United States.
Well, I haven't been to the UK. I've been to Italy. And I loved my time there. I'm a fan of anywhere I can get up in the morning and drink coffee and wine, and I'm not judged. So I'm just
first thing in the morning.
Put that out there, because they do. I mean, Italy, you can go get you can get an espresso and a glass of wine and sit down and read your newspaper and watch the people at the cafes. It's great.
And I hear the legal age of drinking is much younger there, right?
Much younger there.
Well, how do you know the age? I don't know.
I know
you have to do to start drinking.
I honestly don't know. I know, like in Germany, Italy, France, all of those, it's kind of viewed as a norm. I mean, you sit down to dinner, you're going to have a glass of wine, or you're going to have a beer or something like that. So I'm not exactly sure what the legal age is. I just know that I know it was fun. I loved Italy. I was in Rome, Siena, Pisa, and Florence for about 9 days, and it was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, I've never been there myself. Not Italy or France. I was in Holland. I made it to Holland with my father, which was a beautiful place. But that's that's still kind of considered Germany. But
right.
I never made it to Italy or France, and it's like right next door.
Right next door. Yeah, it's like right over the mountain.
But a beautiful landscape, man. I tell you, I never ever. I remember being, a kid. I was 4 when I left to go, and I didn't understand what was happening because I was so young. But
right.
I tell you what, I wouldn't have changed what happened to me that young. If I had the opportunity, it was some of the best experiences of my life, my fondest memories is from living in Germany and being overseas. And
Nice.
you know, it's just don't get me wrong. I'm glad I'm back here in the United States because this is where I'm from. And I was able to build my life and establish my life here and become a, you know, a husband and a father and, you know, a coach, confidant and whatever to a lot of people and just, you know, grow up finally. But I just wouldn't have been the same guy that I am now had I not had those experiences over there. So
I was going to say experiences do shape us and mold us for the good and the bad. And I'm the same way. I love this country. I'm proud to say that I'm an American. I'm not always proud of the things that go on in my country, but I'm not always proud of the things that go on in my town or my house, for that matter. And I'm the only person who lives here, but I'm still not always proud of what goes on in my house. I still know that I screw up. I still screw up. But you know, I love to travel, and I think again that's one of those things. You know, it's like, you know, with my kids right now. You know, my son graduates next weekend, and I'm like, you know, I want him to work. I want him to work before he goes to college, and there's a lot of reasons that I want him to do that. But I also want him to go to college away from where we live or where they live, because you know his mom, my ex-wife, is a college professor. She teaches. He could easily go to college there, but I want him to leave because you can never appreciate home if you don't ever leave. And once you leave, then you can go back. You know, that's the importance of a homecoming. Yeah. That's why it's important, because that's where your roots are. But to really appreciate it, you have to leave. You have to go outside of that sphere in order to appreciate. And by appreciation, you realize all of the positives and the negatives that are in that home, that hometown, that home where you grew up, the people you grew up with. There's always the positive and the negative, but you don't really see it until you get away, because as long as you're there, that's all you see. And
that's all you see.
It's just day-to-day routine. But once you're able to get perspective, and you have to leave to get that perspective.
Yeah, and that's what happens. I mean, listening to you say that, that's what happens in the inner cities in some of these towns. That's all the people know that live there. If they don't never get out and or cross a few borders, or I mean, you don't necessarily have to.
Don't even leave the country. Just go to a different state. Go, see how other people live, for the good and the bad. For the good and the bad. You know, we talk, especially here in southeastern Kentucky and southwest Virginia, where I'm from. You know, there is a huge homeless population, but we don't see it because it's not in the cities like it is in Baltimore or New York or Atlanta. Right. They're out of the picture, so we don't see that. But if you were to leave and go to Baltimore, go to New York, go to Atlanta right now has a huge homeless population. My kids and I saw it last June when we were there. Living under bridges, little communities with tents, and it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is sad.
But you need that perspective. You need to see what goes on in the rest of this country.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily point at your son or your daughter and say, "Look at that." I mean,
it's a teaching experience. It's all of those things. But I'll shut up now and.
No, I don't ever want you to shut up, man. You can't ever shut up on a show called Speak Your Mind.
Well, that's true. So so it's kind of your fault. So
it's kind of my fault. But it's going to be great. It's been fun having you. I don't actually want you to go. I don't want you to go yet. I'm going to close the show out, and then I want to talk to you just for a couple minutes, and then I'll let you go. So
not a problem.
Travis Shortt, stand by 1 minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everybody who tuned in. This is what we do. I'm Derek Stroman. That is my good buddy Travis Shortt. You will be seeing a lot of him. We got so much to talk about. We were just scratching the surface of some of the things that him and I do. And you heard us mention some of the other programs, some of the people we know. I definitely want to delve back into some of the issues that you might be having, whether they're spiritual attachments or just something that's dissatisfying you. You could always jump on and have conversations with us. Hopefully we can help you. If not, maybe we can find somebody that can, so that's what we do here on this show. We do it in our lives. Travis and I do this in our natural lives. Bill Bean, Kev Baker, we all do this in our natural lives. So we're willing to reach out and be there for you. And if you know me, which a lot of you do who are watching this feed or will see it later, you know that I'm telling you the truth. So it's definitely been fun having everybody, yeah, we're gonna set up some shows, probably call on some people, have some other guests, and really spice things up for our episode 2, which who knows when we're going to broadcast it. So just be ready. Sometimes I'll give you a little notification to let you know that a show is coming up. Sometimes I might not. We're just that spontaneous, and it's fun that way because that means you're going to have to try to expect the unexpected. So anyway, until the next show, I hope you are out there enjoying your evening. It's a Friday night. Be safe. Enjoy the weekend. Don't do nothing that I wouldn't do. And speak your mind, but be careful what you say out your mouth at the same time. All right. Love you all. Until the next Speak Your Mind Paramedia activity show. Good night.